All right, y'all. Sometimes we get some crazy Bitcoin price predictions. But yesterday, an analyst said that by 2041,
the amount will be $50 million.
$50 million? And who you think you kidnapped, Chelsea Clinton?
yeah, he said 50 million and didn't even flinch.
Your Bitcoin thesis for 2041 is $50 million.
Right.
Is there any validity to this? How can he say a number like this with a straight face? I'll show you how. And I'll also show you why the tokenization hype that we've been hearing about from the SEC and others is not the big investment that you need to be considering. Think 2 trillion versus 150 trillion. I'm gonna break it down. This is Dante Cook from Bitcoin Simply. Let's go.
$38 trillion in debt is not something that they can ignore for much longer. So they do need to build a Bitcoin reserve, a sizable one, to mitigate that debt, because people are kind of used to the number now, but 38 trillion is a crazy big number and you're pretty bankrupt. And, you know, who wants to own more of your debt? I don't think it's possible to keep continuing it on that track, but also just compounding of the interest is going to be ridiculous too. So something has to be done. And I think they realize the solution is Bitcoin.
Yeah. And this is just in the US. We've racked up $38 trillion like it's nothing. Since 1985, a pound of ground beef has gone from $1 to $6. Let me hit y'all with a stat, some cultural relevance. Last night in downtown Indianapolis, IU won its first Big Ten championship since 1967. The Misfits from Indiana, Signetti, Mendoza, Becker, they left Ohio State with the only O that we want to see. That's the from our faces being in shock from catching that L 13-10. They pulled off the greatest upset in Indiana history since Gene Hackman and Hoosiers, starting a team with 4.5 players. But let's go back to 1967 for a quick second. In 1967, the average household income was $7,000 a year. But you could buy a new house for $14,000. You could buy a new car for about $2,000. A tank of gas was 33 cents and a loaf of bread was 22 cents. Oh, and gold was literally fixed at 35 bucks an ounce. Today, those numbers sound like typos. And that's not because life got 10 times better. It's because the money got 10 times worse. Think about this. Let's talk about college for a second, since we're talking about college football. In 1967, the average cost for tuition and fees for a private college in the United States was about $1,500. Room and board was $2,000, meaning you could go to college for about $3,500 a year at an elite institution like Harvard. Today, the cost for tuition and fees is $39 for a private institution and $10 for a public institution. When you tack on room and board, well, you're looking at $25,000 to about $50,000 to $60,000 a year. So when you hear Bitcoin is a scam, a fraud, a bubble, cool. The real scam is happening behind closed doors, the slow rug pull on the dollar. And the question that everyone is asking is, how many more 1967s do you think your dollar can survive? The reason your dollar won't survive is because of this global shadow debt system. This is what undergirds our current financial system. So even beyond the $38 trillion in debt that the United States has, well, there's another $100 to $150 trillion sitting out there in Eurodollars in this other shadow system that's propping up our economy. And this is why Bitcoin will get to 50 million by 2041, as this analyst predicts.
The penny dropped for me when I realized that, you know, what undergirds a lot of the value in our system is sort of like something I call the global collateral layer, which is like, what do we rely on to borrow against when we're a rich kind of sovereign nation or when we're a central bank? For a long time, like it was gold, like back in the day. And then in the 60s, there emerged something called the Eurodollar. And that sort of like underscored a lot of the economic system. And then on top of that, there's obviously like U.S. treasuries and like the U.S. dollar that we use for our day to day. But something has to kind of underlie that. And I think Bitcoin, we are on a track to, in 15 years from now, and I have this thing I call Vision 2041. By 2041, I believe, like, it seems obvious to me that like Bitcoin is going to replace like the euro dollar of that we saw in the 60s to 2000s, and then after that there was this shadow banking system you used to hear about, talked about. Today there's like sovereign debt. So all the countries around the world issue debt, and then they kind of borrow against that, and they do their daily like government transactions. But like there are problems with that. And in some ways, like Bitcoin is much superior to kind of any of those in the sense that it's digital. It's, it has like this kind of, apolitical nature. So it sits outside of central banks. It sits outside, the influence of whoever the latest Treasury Secretary here is in the US. And it's not, so Eurodollar wasn't a threat to the US dollar. Eurodollar wasn't a threat to US Treasuries. People still use that. But there's some like underlying thing that a lot of other countries and the financial systems borrows against to kind of do things. And so today, like the UAE, they issue debt or some random country issues debt, but they could rely on Bitcoin, and I think they're going to see like over time like that's much more logical. So that sovereign debt world is an enormous financial world.
Every family, I don't care what economic situation that you're in right now, understands that you have to invest, and you have to invest in something quickly in order to have your dreams realized, whether it's a dream to retire, whether it's the American dream, or whether it's just to make ends meet. And so a lot of people are looking at investments right now, and one of the big major themes is, should I invest into a hard asset like real estate, like gold, like Bitcoin, or should I invest into crypto, the financialization of the markets, the tokenization of the modern financial system? Messages like these from SEC Chair Paul Atkins makes people believe that this crypto financialization of the markets trend is one that's investable. And I'm here to let you in on a secret. It's not.
Tokenization is the idea of using then smart contracts or tokens on chain to be able to that represent, say, an underlying security. And so then that tokenized security is a security and would be subject to SEC rules by law. But the idea is that if it's on chain, on a blockchain, then there's much more transparency as to where it is. Right now, there's a bit of opacity as to who owns what, and where the company usually doesn't even know where its who its shareholders are, and where the shareholders reside, where the shares reside. So tokenization has the benefit of potentially having, instead of T+1 now trade date +1 for clearance and settlement, the prospect of maybe T0. Now, depending on the instrument, and we have to think about netting and all sorts of other things with respect to some instruments. But in principle, the idea of on-chain delivery versus payment and receipt versus payment, DVP, RVP on-chain, is a prospect of de-risking the markets, making them much more transparent and then sure as far as clearance and settlement, because it's always that the gap between clearance and settlement and then delivery and payment is the real introduces risk into the system.
Do you expect this is where financial services is going? Are the major banks and the brokers out there today moving increasingly toward tokenization?
Oh, absolutely. And it's the way the world will be, here in the, maybe not even in 10 years, maybe even a lot less time, maybe a couple of years from now. So
this is for the lower level investors. Lower level investors are going to be able to think that they're going to be able to buy a crypto token and make their dream or their goals realized to get out of this financial system that we're in that I described earlier. Higher level investors know that there's nothing else. There's just poo-poo coins. And then there's people like Kevin O'Leary who are saying there's Bitcoin and Ethereum. But here again, I disagree.
That's all you have to own to capture 90% of all of the crypto market's alpha or pricing volatility is simply Bitcoin and Ethereum. You don't need anything else. And so this is really, really hard medicine for all of the people that sponsored all of these other chains and other platforms, because now they face the reality, which I think is a cleansing, a good thing, a spatula cleaning from all that poo-poo coin out there that's just pure speculation. But it also says the maturity of the market is looking at the numbers, because the big money's about to come in. So if you were just in Bitcoin and Ethereum over the last 8 weeks, you've done so much better than own the poo-poo coins. And the poo-poo coins aren't going to come back unless they can give you a use case, and they have to have tens of millions of dollars in marketing. Jack, you just called for the price of Bitcoin. That is universal around the world. The
Right.
only other call is on Ethereum, and no one else gets that ticker you just called for.
Right.
They have to mark it. They have to buy it.
Made that case from the beginning of this, that Bitcoin really was the be-all and end-all, and that all these poo-poo
But now
coins,
you
as
have the
call them, had no
infrastructure.
value.
You have the infrastructure saying, I'm an institution. What do I need to own? No poo-poo coins, just Bitcoin and Ethereum.
All right, no poo-poo coins. You've graduated from a trader in trading in hopium to Bitcoin and Ethereum. But let me give you some game as to why you don't want to invest into a true trillion-dollar asset class. You want to invest into something that might be worth 150 trillion. Let me put you on game. When we talk about the tokenization of the financial system, let's talk about 4 key parties. Exchanges and trading platforms. 1. 2. Brokerages. 3. Data and index vendors. And 4. Asset managers. Now I'm going to give you the market caps of some large players in these industries and tell you the total market cap of this entire market. ICE, which owns the New York Stock Exchange, worth about $70 billion. The CME Group, depending on what commodities are doing, is worth $70 to $85 billion. NASDAQ, about $50 billion. The CBOE, $40 billion. Let's go to the brokers. Charles Schwab, $135 to $140 billion. Interactive Brokers, $50 billion. Robinhood, $33 billion. So the ballpark for this asset class is about $200 billion. What about the data vendors like Bloomberg? $70 billion. What about the S&P Global? $50 billion. When you add up this group, including MSCI, you get this layer that's worth about $250 billion. Asset managers like BlackRock, the biggest, are taking about $14 billion in fees. So maybe they get a little bit more efficient with the tokenization of this asset class. So the rough total, when you add up 300 to 400 billion, $200 billion and $250 billion, well, and then the private brokers, all the BlackRocks and ETFs and big players out there, you get another $100 to $200 billion. In total, if I'm generous, this is a $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion asset class. So if Ethereum takes this entire market, you get a $2 trillion investable asset class. Maybe let's put a 10x multiple on it. It's a $20 trillion asset class. But Bitcoin is going after a $38 trillion asset class in the United States debt problem alone, and 150 when you expand globally. 2 trillion or 150. Before we go any further, as to why some experts believe that this is possible, let's thank our sponsors. Ledn has been the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans since 2018, issuing over $9 billion worth of loans without any losses, any collateral damage, and not a single cent or sat of customer money lost. Why? It's because your money is held in cold storage when you post Bitcoin as collateral. It's not lent out, rehypothecated, or doing something that you don't want it to. You can actually view the address of the Bitcoin collateral that you post in their platform in the platform. You want a $1,000 fiat loan? Well, you post $2,000 of Bitcoin collateral. With no credit check, fiat will be in your account in less than 6 hours. Never sell your Bitcoin. And work with a vendor like Ledn by going to the link learn.ledn.io/simply to get started. You'll actually get 0.25% off of your first loan. And one of the ways you can continue to be sovereign in your journey is by working with a company like the Bitcoin Way, where they will provide you with a coach to walk you through step by step exactly how to become a sovereign individual and to take the next step in your Bitcoin journey from just buying on exchanges to actually owning this revolutionary asset. Go to thebitcoinway.com/simplybitcoin to get scheduled with a coach today. Bitcoin is the true innovation. Think about how mind-blowing this is. The CEO of one of the largest companies in the world and the backbone of our entire infrastructure understands that Bitcoin is a wildly innovative discovery. We can take excess energy and convert it to currency and then transport it around the world globally from place to place.
Essentially, what Bitcoin is doing is taking excess energy, storing it into a new form. It's called currency. And you take that currency and you take it wherever you like. And so you took energy from one place and now you've transported it everywhere.
Bitcoin is global capital. When you think about these different banks needing another form of collateral, needing another undergirding to the current financial system that isn't a dollar-based system anymore, well, you need a hard asset that's apolitical. And this is why Bitcoin is the prime candidate. It's going after multiple trillions of dollars, hundreds of trillions of dollars of capital that need another place to park and to refinancialize the system. And that's why it's so important that people understand Bitcoin, because it's not just an asset that the richest and wealthiest can get. It's accessible to all of us and to 8 billion people around the world. It provides hope. In a conversation with Preston Pish, where she's talking about how Bitcoin is truly hope for people that are struggling, for trying to get out of the situation, for trying to get back to a place where we might feel like 1967 or the last time that the IU Hoosiers won a Big Ten championship.
I do say Bitcoin is hope a lot, right? It's this antidote, it's this ultimate solution, but it's so funny, human nature. Like you can tell someone, hey, don't worry, everything's going to be great. And they'll sort of just like shrug and not pay attention. Tell them that the world is on fire and something bad is about to happen and you have their full undivided attention. And believe me, I know that really well from working in news, because if it bleeds, it leads. And it's like, you can really sell panic. And I'm actually trying to do the opposite, because I think the thing that people most need is a feeling of, I can do this. The future can be better than the present. I can make it. I can achieve. I can empower myself. And that's really ultimately kind of the underlying message of the book, is like, it's not too late and you can take control over your time again. And that's what I think is what money allows us to do, is control our time again. When we feel this constant pressure on our backs, you've actually talked about this, I think on my show before or another show. I think it's led to so much of the decay morally that we see in society, when every single member of the household has pressure on them to provide, and it never feels like enough. Now you need 3 incomes for what you used to be able to afford on 1 income. And you see us getting more and more divided and negative online. And we all use social media, I think, as this tool. Like if you're in a great place, you use it as a tool to get more information and, improve yourself, create businesses. But if you're in a bad place, you use it to vent your frustration and probably find scapegoats and find other people. Misery loves company. And we're in this very, very divided, and I think just like a place of mental angst where people just feel so resentful and frustrated of how far they've fallen behind. And it's not your fault. Like part of the book is saying, like, you are working hard. I'm acknowledging the fact that like you have put in this work and you deserve to feel like you have control over your time and your future. And that's what Bitcoin offers you. And Bitcoin is, in my opinion, the best solution, but it's really just representative of a good form of money that allows you to save for the future, because it cannot be debased, because it is scarce, because it is divisible, because it is portable, because it, answers to all of these defects that came before in other forms of money. That's like the whole message, is for the first time in human history, we have a form of money where the average person can start to accumulate apolitical, globally traded capital to start to have a seat at the table and plan for their lives, their families, drop to their time preference. And that's what makes me so excited, and also why I think that it's so important to share this message with the average person who feels left behind.
So let me ask you this question. When you're thinking about where and how to invest, how do we get out of this rat race? Do you want to invest into crypto, the tokenization of the financial world that's worth about $2 trillion, or if we're generous, 20 trillion? Or do you want to invest in an asset class that's worth 150 trillion? $200 trillion. I don't know. But one of the ways that people on this platform can continue to invest into Bitcoin is by diversifying how you buy Bitcoin. Buying Bitcoin on an exchange and removing it into self-custody, or mining Bitcoin and getting the benefits of depreciation and tax write-offs when you buy a state-of-the-art mining rig through SAS Mining. Purchase a state-of-the-art mining rig, and with no contracts, no markups, no middlemen, no people in between, they will stream sats directly to your wallet. And if you care about the environment, well, they do this with 100% carbon-free renewable energy sources. They're 100% aligned with Bitcoiner values, and if you're looking at a way to decrease your taxable income with a write-off by buying a state-of-the-art mining machine, or also earning sats like Satoshi straight to your wallet while you sleep, well then go to this QR code here on the screen and talk to someone from SAS Mining today. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.